Alright, so if you're bulking and you end up watery, soft, and your face ends up looking straight out fat, this is exactly why, because this is the one hidden secret all coaches out there don't speak about, and it's about water regulation, water fluctuation, and the secret to having fluid balance to be dialed in. What happens here? You've got your sodium and potassium balance, your ratio. And that ratio needs to be exact every single day, because sodium, you got to realize what sodium does. So sodium is an electrolyte. It transports all the water straight into the muscle in order to fill up the muscle, because what's your muscle made out of? Blood, glycogen, which is a form of stored carbohydrates, and water. Sodium lets water into the fucking muscle, but if your potassium isn't on par with sodium or even above, it can cause a lot of fluid imbalances. And have you ever wondered how one day you're really lean and the next day you hold a lot of fat on your face? That's to water retention. It's got to do with this exact ratio. So obviously you got to drink water at a high and consistent level as well. But if you're drinking high amounts of water and a consistent sodium as well every day, but if your potassium is still low, that can also cause a lot of water imbalances, which lead to a fat face while bulking, which is exactly the last thing that you want to do. So what is this balance that I'm talking about? And why is it important? So without potassium, sodium cannot do its job. So potassium is sodium's little brother if you think about it. So sodium lets water into the muscle, but potassium lets sodium do the actual job. And the ratio that you need to maintain, which is the potassium to sodium ratio, needs to be this exact number day in, day out, because you could be having high amounts of water consistently, high amounts of sodium, which you do need sodium, especially for a healthy athlete in order to train and get an insane pump. You need water, you need salt, because if you don't even have decent amount of sodium, if you're just drinking a lot of water day in, day out, or if you're even drinking inconsistent amounts of water, the water is not going to be able to go into the muscle, and it's going to stay outside of the muscle and be able to also go into your face. So the salt actually lets the water into the muscle and away from all your problem areas. But without this exact balance, which you need to be from 1 potassium to 1 sodium, all the way to 1.5 potassium to 1 sodium. And what does that mean? So if you're eating, right? If you're eating 3,000 mg of sodium daily, which is the minimal you should eat if it's healthy salt, so all the salt you should eat. And this is exactly what I tell to my one-on-one clients. You need to have your salt clean, away from any processed shit, olive oil, seed oil, all that extra preservatives. If you go get takeout, you cook your own meals, that way they're clean, and you add your own salt to them. Celtic sea salt, which is very important, because that way you can control the exact sodium you need to put in, because you weigh your sodium exactly. And the exact amount of sodium per gram is another topic for another video, but that's exactly the sort of depth and quality I go for each of my one-on-one clients, where I detail out specifically what they're eating, the sort of meal structure, the type of carbohydrates around the training as well, which is pivotal, which causes a lot of water balances as well, because what I said earlier, carbohydrate lets water store into the muscle. You need to master your carbohydrates as well, but also master for them the sodium potassium balance. So if you're eating 3,000 mg of sodium every day consistently, which is the minimum you should eat, that means you eat anywhere between 3,000 mg of potassium all the way to 4,500 mg of potassium. Boom. And such things like potassium-rich foods can be bananas, spinach, sweet potatoes. It's very important to have potassium-rich foods inside of your diet. Because if you don't have those things there, because if you don't have those foods into your diet, you're more than likely going to have a low amount of potassium in your diet. And what does that mean if you get takeout every week, or if you're a tradie or a construction worker or something, and you're relying on takeaway food because you haven't been diligent, you haven't been proactive in meal prepping on the fucking weekend like you know you should in order to level up your fucking physique, then you're going to have a high amount of sodium, not enough potassium, and you're probably also drinking inconsistent amount of water, which is also a big no-no, because think about it. One day you're drinking 4 or 5 liters of water, low sodium. The next day you're having high sodium, but no water. Your body's going to be confused and isn't going to be able to regulate the water effectively, because it doesn't know when and what's coming, and so it shuts down. It doesn't regulate that correct fluid balance. and it stores all that excess water on your face, your love handles, and that's exactly why you think you're trying to bulk, but you can't seem to get any good quality muscle, lean muscle, and you seem to be holding on to all that excess water. So it's not just about macro, it's not just about calories, it's not just about carbs, there's all these other nuances and very detailed things that go into bodybuilding that you need to directly understand. And if you're not implementing these things, it's the exact reason why you might be waking up one morning with a fat face, especially on a weekend where you might have a big event. You've got a party, you've got a wedding, you've got to be someone, you've got to look your best, but you wake up with a fat face. That's exactly why. So if you're not keeping track of all these things, if you're not keeping track of your water intake, your sodium intake, and your potassium intake every day. And if you don't even understand your macros or whether you're eating at a surplus or deficit, it's no wonder why you're not getting the physique that you fucking want. And it's no wonder why you're always holding on to so much fucking water. These are the things that I cover specifically for my one-on-one boys that I coach. And these sort of presentations, I go into way more detail inside of my coaching. So if that's something that you know you need applied into your life directly working with me, you can message me on Instagram. I'll put the link directly in the description, or you can book in a call one-on-one with me. Where you can master the lean build, have a lean face, you can have your jaw chiseled, your cheekbones looking nice and lean, and still have a six-pack fucking popping. And also when it comes to this exact ratio and these exact numbers, those numbers will change depending on you, your body type, how much you weigh, your physical activity, how much you sweat during the day, because the more you sweat, then the more water you need, the more sodium you need in order to replenish the water in your muscle. But if you're not sweating and you're sitting around a desk all day at an office, then you're not going to need as much water and you're not going to need as much salt, because if you have too much salt and not enough water, that's also going to lead to water retention. If you're not having enough sodium and too much water, that's also going to dilute the sodium inside of your blood and also cause water retention as well. So there's a very fine line you need to understand that's very geared specifically to you, depends on your environment, how hot it is, how cool it is, and the exact other things that make you who you are. DM me, reach out to me, or book in a call directly with me, and we can cover this specifically for you, which is exactly what I do with all my one-on-one boys. Let's run it up.